Just when you thought that things would change for Ichinose and now it will be smooth sailing and she would have some character development, right then things go in the opposite direction. Or at least they seem to be as of right now. Of course, I'm talking about the synopsis of Year 2 Volume 9 that got released a few days ago. And there's a lot to analyze, discuss and talk about in this synopsis. So let's start from the beginning. The synopsis has two dialogues said by anonymous students and then the rest is the summary of what will happen in this volume. First, we have this dialogue. As I expected, I wonder if Ichinose-san has given up on the possibility of going up to Class A. So right off the bat, there would be certain characters coming to mind who would say this dialogue. And to me, when I first saw this dialogue, for some reason I read it in Horikita's voice. You know how while reading, in our mind we read dialogues in character's voice. Just like that, without thinking anything of it, I read it in Horikita's voice. So I think that was my first unintentional guess. But let's look at the dialogue again. It says here Ichinose-san, not Honami, which is a thing to note because that means this character is someone that's not from Ichinose's class. Since I assume everyone except the likes of Himeno and Kanzaki call her Honami. Even though I don't think anyone would read this dialogue and even think that this speaker is from Ichinose's class, but still that's a thing to note. And if you ask me, then I think it would be either Horikita or Kushida or Sakayanagi. There's also a chance of Kei saying it, but that's unlikely. Others like Hyori and Haruka are also up there, but they are also not very likely. And the reason I named all girls here and not a single boy is also because in the original text, the sentence ended with the word kana. Now the rough translation of it means I guess or I wonder in English, but this expression is mostly used by women. And yes, it's a word and anyone can say it, but even when you look in anime, mostly you will only find anime girls saying it at the end of a sentence. So from that thought, I think it's a girl here saying that, but still it's not a confirmation and things could be vice versa. There's really no way to know until the volume comes out. So let's go to the next line. In December, after the school trip ends, the last special exam of the second term, a cooperative comprehensive written test, is announced. This sentence probably confused you a lot, and if not, then here's the reason. It says the last special exam of the second term. So does that mean that the second year is coming to an end? Is this the last volume of second year? And if it is coming to an end, then is this illustration the final meeting that Aina Koji promised Ichinose? The answer is no, it's not. There are several reasons. Number one being that the second year will end with a 0.5 volume, just like the first year volume 11.5, where we had all the graduation stuff. Here in the second year, I think in the last volume we will get a bit of Nagumo's graduation stuff and then probably Aina Koji's plan of changing classes coming into action and his final meeting before transferring, all that stuff, and it's too soon for that. So you might think that maybe it's the second last volume, and that's where things get confusing. Because if you go back to the afterword of Year 2 Volume 8, then Kinugasa Sensei said that the next volume after Volume 9 would be about winter holidays, which probably means a 9.5 volume. Does that mean that volume 9.5 would be the end of second year? Frankly, it shouldn't be. Because from what I remember, the first year did not end after December, right? It was sometime around spring, so why would the second year end early? It doesn't fit. And when you think about it, if volume 9 contains the last special exam of second year, then how would we be able to have more volumes after winter holidays volume 9.5? And that's where it gets even more confusing, because in the afterword of Year 2 Volume 8, Kinugasa Sensei said one more thing. I think I've said before that the second year arc may be shorter than the first year, but it may end up being a bit longer. Which I don't see happening. The first year ended with volume 11.5, and if it's the last exam in second year volume 9, then how would it end up being longer than the first year? Things don't seem to be connecting. So the only possibility that I can think of is that the cooperative comprehensive written test will not take place in second year volume 9. Yes, no special exam in second year volume 9. And that's the only way second year would be able to match the length of the first year. Also, look at the sentence again. It says the exam is announced. It's not happening. It's only announced, and that wouldn't be out of the ordinary. Even the school trip in second year volume 8 was announced earlier than it happened. So most probably the second year volume 9 will be a volume without a special exam. That's what I think, but that doesn't mean that it would be without thrill. And you might wonder, what would be the focus of second year volume 9? For that, let's look further in the synopsis. The content is that each student alternatively solves the test questions with the whole class solving 100 questions in total in the end. Now this is a rough description of how the exam will work, and I will discuss on it in a separate video since I believe the exam will not happen in this volume, and I could be totally wrong on that, but still I'm leaving it as of now. And also looking back at it, first year volume 9 was also without a special exam, was focused on Ichinose, and it was related to a shoplifting incident. I just mean that the similarities are no coincidence here.
Wow, that's a strange coincidence.
Keeping that aside, next is Horikita's B class will be taking on Sakayanagi's A class. As we already know, Ichinose's class is facing Ruin and Horikita's class is facing Sakayanagi. And who would win here? Well, Sakayanagi's class is above in academics, but with the momentum of class B, the difference is not so great. Also, as of now, Horikita's class just so happens to have a guy named Kiyotaka Aina Koji, so I don't know, class B will fancy their chances. Still would be a tough battle, but I would go with Horikita's class. Let me know what you go with, and here comes the next. While the preparations for the test are ongoing, Nagumo announces that the next term student council president will be chosen. You can also see here it says preparations are going on, nothing about the test happening in this volume. And the very next line is what I think will be one of the focus of this volume, the next student council president. And as we see later on in the synopsis, the second year student council members are Horikita and Ichinose. Even when asked about her candidacy, Ichinose's intention is to resign from the student council itself. So if I am understanding it correct, the only second year students who can become the student council president are Horikita and Ichinose. And Ichinose's intention is to resign? Well, it seems like the competition is gone for Horikita, but what the actual stuff is happening here with Ichinose? Why on earth would she resign? I literally thought this was going to be the volume for Ichinose, but this makes me believe we are not there yet, provided if there will be any in the future. And if you think that maybe this will help, or if she's doing it to focus on her class and get some mental health, then I believe that will be wrong. By resigning, she let go of one of the advantages that she was sure to get and even created disadvantages for her class. Here's how. If, and I'm saying if because it says that it's her intention to resign, meaning maybe she won't at the end, at least that's what I'm hoping for. But if she did resign, then she literally gave Horikita, a rival of hers, the title of the student council president. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you how important of a title it is in advanced nurturing high school, especially in the third year. I'm sure you can imagine how it could be very useful for tactics and strategies. But she's ready to give it away? Is she not thinking about her class? Perhaps, and maybe that's where this dialogue comes in. After she made her intention clear, maybe it's Horikita saying it, because she also knows that anyone in their right mind who set upon going to class A would not let go of this chance, especially when they are the favorite to win the battle. So I don't know why she's doing that, but if you ask me, then I think at the end she would decide to not resign. A courtesy of Aina Koji perhaps? Could be. Or at the very least, that's probably the way things would go with Ichinose. And then comes this. In addition to the problem of securing a new member for the student council, a fake shoplifting case also occurs targeting Kirin. And things become chaotic around the student council. Now this is interesting and possibly one of the biggest focus of this volume. First of all, it says that they are looking for a new member for the student council. While that doesn't confirm the resignation of Ichinose, it does strengthen the possibility of it. So, assuming Ichinose will end up resigning, who would be the other student to join it? Kiyotaka Aina Koji? I know it sounds unlikely, but if somehow it happened, then it wouldn't be surprising. However, the more realistic guess would be Sakayanagi or even Ruin, as they both will know the value of having a title of the student council president in various plans. So if Ichinose will resign, perhaps they would go for it. I mean, imagine Ruin being the student council president. That would be so uncalled for, but nonetheless interesting. Speaking of which, the next thing, a fake shoplifting case targeting Kirin. So right off the bat, we know it's a fake setup. Gladly she's not into shoplifting. But what's intriguing here is the reason. The reason for targeting Kirin. Who would benefit from it? What's the reason for this fake setup? What is the end goal here? To be honest, it's hard to answer. Kirin seemingly doesn't have any enemies that would benefit from it. Take Nagumo for example. They are in the same grade, and if you would consider anyone an enemy for Kirin from the 3rd grade, then it would be him. But looking at the situation, there is no benefit for him. Class A is already ahead in the race, so it's not like a penalty to Class B will do anything for his class, which makes him almost motiveless. And if you think that maybe he's doing it as an indirect challenge to her, since she won't take him seriously, then I doubt it. What will make him suddenly go for Kirin instead of Aina Koji? Does it have anything to do with what Aina Koji and Nagumo talked about in the student council room? Probably not. Then who else except Nagumo? Well, I'm sure you all remember 2nd year volume 4, the fight where Kirin helped Aina Koji to fight with Shiba and Sakishiro. Among these two, Sakishiro is already out, but Shiba, he is left, and he was the one fighting with Kirin, so is this his doing? Well, we can be more sure that it's not, because why would he even bother her at this stage after not doing anything for so long? Unless Kirin met him and provoked him in a manner, which by the way she is totally capable of doing, but I just believe that Shiba would not be stupid enough to engage. So keeping him out, there doesn't seem to be any enemies left. And at this point, I would like to say, what if this setup doesn't have anything to do with revenge? Think about it. Maybe we should remove this bias and look at the situation again. That's what I did, and I think it's someone who's trying to see what punishment or how far the school will go with a penalty in a case like this, where I assume there's not 100% conclusive evidence that it was Kirin. And why would anyone do this? Well, it's easy to assume that shoplifting doesn't happen in the school much, or at least not a lot of people are caught. So if someone can frame someone with this, they might want to see the loss the other party will suffer without the 100% evidence provided to the school, since then it could be used to take some class points from other classes in some situations. Or perhaps the person doing it has much sinister plans in mind. I'm just saying to keep characters like Aina Koji, Sakayanagi, Kamuro and Ishigami in mind. Some of them might be up to something with it. Other than that, there doesn't seem anything or anyone else that would be involved with it. So at this point, that would be it. And with that, we are now on the second dialogue that we have in this synopsis. I'm not being unreasonable, I too want to see Aina Koji-kun. I'm sure I don't need to tell you who's the speaker here. Like, come on, the only way you can't guess that would be if you haven't caught up till 2nd year volume 4.5. After that, of course it's the hair clip girl. Like, who else it could have been? Hirata? No, he calls him Kiyotaka, otherwise I could see your point. Anyways, I thought that from this volume the condition of Ichinose will improve, but as of right now, from the synopsis, it seems like it's getting worse. Leaving the student council, still wanting to see Aina Koji, not moving on from him, and the only positive that we can see is probably this illustration. That's also if she's meeting Aina Koji here. I hope that's the case. Also, being a bit serious here, if we look at this dialogue again, then it looks like she's saying this to someone, right? The phrasing here definitely makes it look like that way. So let's try to guess who this person could be. And we only have this dialogue for it, so let's break it down. Ichinose says, I'm not being unreasonable. So this establishes a relation between the other character and Ichinose. It's someone who's not that close to her. What I mean from that is that the other person owes nothing to Ichinose and hence is free to criticize her, because this response looks like an answer to a form of criticism. And now the second thing. I too want to see Aina Koji-kun. The word too here implies that the other person in some way does want to see Aina Koji, or maybe the topic of conversation is about someone who sees Aina Koji frequently, possibly Kei. So either the other character also likes Aina Koji, or the topic of discussion here is about Kei Karuizawa. Both possibilities are equally likely, so let's narrow down the characters. Someone with whom Ichinose would be open enough to talk about Aina Koji and gets criticized. And we can easily remove voice from this conversation because it seems highly unlikely knowing the context. It's not like she would talk like that with Kanzaki or even the characters on the cover, although Mako might have a decent chance at it. But truly, my thought here is Sheena Hyori. I don't know why she was the first one that came to my mind, she just did. Probably because we haven't seen much of her lately, and she seems like the character that Ichinose would be comfortable talking with and the one who could criticize her. Like, here's how I think the conversation would go. Ichinose met Sheena in the library, they start talking, and from one topic to another they came on the topic of Kei and Aina Koji, because both are interested in Aina Koji, and Sheena must have heard rumors about Ichinose liking Aina Koji. So then she asks her about it, and then Ichinose gets embarrassed a bit, and then Sheena says something along the lines of that you shouldn't be unreasonable and you should back down since Kei is dating Aina Koji, so no need to see him. And then comes this reply, or maybe something similar to it. You know, there are a lot of possibilities, so let me know yours, but regardless of who the other person is, things are not looking good for Ichinose. So let's see how this whole Ichinose situation turns out. I hope it happens in this volume. If not, then on to the next volume we hope. Moving on to the last line of the synopsis, the school apocalypse enters a new chaos. That's definitely something everyone can agree with. Like, volume by volume, I can feel the chaos that waits up ahead in the third year. And I feel like it's gonna be really ruthless. Some dark moments are waiting for us, and second year volume 9 might be the beginning of them. Let me know what you think about it. I am really looking forward to this volume and see what it has in store for us. And I am pretty sure it's gonna be chaos among the people as well, because I also see people saying Kyokai might be over. And before ending the video, to Kei supporters, I just wanna say you don't need to worry about it. If it was any other character, then I would see the point, but it's Aina Koji we are talking about. He won't cheat. Like, if there's anyone that can control themselves in front of Ichinose, then it's this guy. Nothing of that sort will happen. Look at his face and expressions in this illustration, and if there's anything, maybe you should be happy about this illustration. So no worries. And to Ichinose supporters, I would say all you can do is to count on Ichinose and hope something happens. I mean, at the end of the day, don't forget she does have an experience with stealing.